Here. And first, Marcus, we're going to be talking about Russia's President Vladimir Putin. He wants to show the world Russia's open for business.
Yes, he wants to do that indeed. Hi there, Tom. Hi there, everyone. The Russian president, as you were just saying, Tom, he has pledged to support the oil firm Shell, and he did that in front of TV cameras in a very obvious fashion, meeting with the Anglo-Dutch company's chief executive. Shell wants to expand a natural gas project in Russia's Far East to hike natural gas exports to Asia. The European Union and the United States have imposed sanctions against dozens of Russian and Ukrainian officials and investors. They've pulled billions of dollars from Russia on fears that the economy will take a hit because of those sanctions. Recent surveys show that business confidence in Russia is also at its lowest level since 2008.
The entire project will have the most positive influence on further expansion of Russia's presence on the world energy markets. It will stimulate the economy on the whole and our energy sector. I congratulate you and all our partners.
Russian President Putin speaking there. We're going to look to the skies next. When it comes to the passenger plane business, the focus is often on Airbus and Boeing. They're duking it out for sales, with Asia turning into their #1 battleground. But in the segment for smaller regional aircraft, Africa is increasingly being seen as the next big market. France-based ATR invited a delegation of African ambassadors to its headquarters in Toulouse this week. Our correspondent there, Chris Bockman, has more.
30 African ambassadors in Paris on their way to the HQ of the world's biggest turboprop maker, ATR, based in Toulouse. The playmaker believes Africa is ripe for business and wants to start by winning over the continent's envoys. With economic growth in much of Africa at close to 7% a year, the continent needs to invest in new transport infrastructure to boost trade even further.
And we are just at the beginning. After Asia and Center of America, South America, the next one will be Africa. And the economic growth and the traffic are two parallel lines.
ATR argues it'll be cheaper and faster for African countries to develop their air transport networks than road system. It's a message that seems to be getting across.
We are basically an agricultural country. We produce a lot for ourselves, but also for the neighbors. And it is very important to have a transportation network to reach the markets.
And people don't have time to spend 6, 7, 8 hours on the road, so this cuts that time and gives people time to go to see an area where they want to put up a factory, say in eastern Uganda or northern Uganda. They can quickly go up, look at the terrain, look at the opportunities, fly back, take a plane back and get out of Uganda.
The ambassadors were shown around the airplane maker's factory floor. Both ATR and its chief rival, the Canadian plane maker Bombardier, see a market for 400 turboprops in Africa.
Unthinkable just a few years ago, ATR believes it could do as much as $8 billion worth of business with Africa over the next 20 years.
OK, let's bring you a snapshot of a few other stories that we're watching for you. The United States is putting off a decision on a new pipeline between Canada and the Mexican Gulf. The US State Department says it's extending the government's reflection period. It means that a decision is unlikely before the midterm election in the United States in November. The Keystone pipeline is seen as an economic boon, but there are concerns of its environmental impact. The move by the State Department is likely to anger Canadian politicians who have complained of US indecisiveness. Oil exports from Iran have risen dramatically. An Iranian government spokesman says exports have almost doubled in 8 months' time to 1.2 million barrels per day. The increase follows the election last June of President Hassan Rouhani. It comes ahead of expected talks with Western powers over Iran's nuclear program next month. Western sanctions have hit oil exports hard, and they've tumbled from 2.5 million barrels per day in 2011. And here in Europe, the board of Italian bank Monte dei Paschi di Siena has given the go-ahead to a plan to raise €5 billion. The lender will be selling new shares, hoping to avoid a nationalisation. The bank needs to pay back a €4 billion loan from the Italian government by year-end. The lender accepted that loan last year to stave off bankruptcy. OK, that's the business news for now. It's back to you, Tom.
Thank you very much indeed, Marcus. Well, up next here on France 24, it's a check of what's going on in cyberspace. Web News is next.